This is Fireside Leadership, where we explore leadership lessons that lead to personal and professional success. Here are your hosts, Janice Lee, Lisa McGale, and Leanne Nugent.
Welcome to Fireside Leadership. I'm one of your co-hosts, Janice, and to my left.
Hi, I'm Lisa McHale, also co-host of Fireside Leadership. Welcome.
Welcome. So we've been on hiatus for probably the better part of a year, and originally the idea was to take the summer off. Summer turned into fall, fall turned into winter, and here we are. Part of the hiatus involved just focusing on some of the paths that both Lisa and myself wanted to take. You'll notice that we have a third person with us here today, and I'm really excited to welcome Leanne.
Hi, thanks for welcoming me.
We're so excited to have you. You may recall Leanne was a former guest of ours on one of our previous episodes, and we were so thrilled to have her then. And then recently she reached out and said, what are you guys doing with Fireside Leadership?
Yeah.
And I think from then we invited her to come on, and here we are.
Kind of a reinvigoration, it was one of those things where I thought, had a few ideas, wanted to share some thoughts and wanted to find a platform. And the format that the two of you created was just really inspiring. So I think, wanted to see if we could give this a shot together and see what we could do together. And yeah, here we are.
At least what we can take away is we're always open to change and always open ideas. And so Leanne is here to bring a different viewpoint to the stories that we've had. And I think we both, or all three of us, have a very collective similarity in that, we value a lot of personal growth. We value a lot of introspection and change, not only as it applies to our personal lives, but our professional lives. And so, Leanne, I think you're going to be a great addition to this.
Thank you
segment.
very much.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, grateful for her to join us for so many reasons. I think, as Jenna said, we're like-minded, and the work that we do on ourselves, we definitely bring to the table when we're doing things in leadership roles and professional things. So excited to see where this is going to go. And thank you for, bringing it up, because here we are.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Excited. So we're going to be launching into our first of hopefully many different series where we're actually focusing on career development specifically. And Leanne, do you want to talk a little bit about how actually you came to us with that idea and which is why we spurred this conversation?
Well, I had this opportunity at work to deliver a career development workshop, if you will. It was a multi-series workshop, 6 sessions over the course of the year where we would think about what does career progression look like at our company. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of made me think about, well, what does career progression look like in general, right? So what are the first things that you have to think about? How do you know if you're even in your dream job? So I came up with a really great framework, and just, again, with the timing of things, and I changed roles, I wasn't able to actually deliver this at work, but I thought still valuable information, really had a good idea of what kind of message I wanted to put out there, and, welcome everybody's feedback on what's working for them and what's not working for them, and hear what you all thought about what, would make career progression without killing yourself, right? Without the burnout, right? So there's always that stigma.
Yeah.
Right.
So wanted to get your perspectives on that, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, you
love the story. I think burnout is a big topic right now. There's a lot of people who post-COVID are struggling with just getting back into the swing of things. And as the swing of things is coming up, the benefits of COVID, more time to relax and more downtime is not happening on the upswing. And so I'm grateful that you're putting your career workshop here and development for leaders, because even leaders, they still have career work development. For example, we were just speaking to a friend of ours, another colleague who is in the middle of a transition, and the conversation is about, what is the role? What are the criteria for a good fit? So I'm excited to see what you have in your packet that you have there that we're going to unload. So Janice, what are we talking about first today?
Leanne, you actually touched on it a little bit, is the first thing we're going to talk about in this session of career development is really how do you know you're in the right role? There are many angles to look at that, what's right for you in terms of a personal fit, just the team and the culture. Then there's where is this role fit in, in terms of the skill set I'm learning, and is it on the right path to where I want to get to at some point in my career? We're not going to share too many of these details, because I know that we want to release them in a different series. But Leanne, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of how you arrived at, I guess, these sessions?
Yeah. And I think, so you touched on it there for sure, but I think the very first thing that I thought of was just first figure out who I am, right? So if I was grounded in who I am, what makes me tick, what do I like, what don't I like, that might help align me with, okay, so here I am, this is what I like, what I don't like, but then here's my job, and these are the tasks that I have to do every day, and I either like them or don't like them. If I know who I am and what I like and what I don't like, I can kind of start measuring what is in alignment and what isn't.
Right.
100%. So I'm thinking of my daughter's blueprint that they did in 7th grade.
Okay.
You know, where the characteristics of defining what you like. So in your packet, how did you assess what you liked versus what you didn't like? Was there a grading scale? What did you put together in your...
I love this idea of a blueprint because there's not one exact thing that you can do. There are so many options out there, right? Like how many surveys are there? How many quizzes, right? Like if you think about back in the day when you're looking at your magazines, like all these quizzes that you can do, like who am I? What's my favorite color? I think that's kind of the first thing. So there's a lot of options out there, and Strengths Finder is one of them. Yeah. You know, while we were brainstorming this, we all did our Strengths Finder. And, you know, thank you to my colleagues out there too, who also did their Strengths Finder. So it was really awesome to bring that up. And then now we have a collective language to start from. It's like a baseline, and knowing what each other's strengths are too. We get to feed off of each other. So, I mean, that would probably be the next step, but knowing who I am, what makes me tick. The other one that was a good one was 16 personalities. I think that one might even be free.
It is.
I think they are.
I think the initial ones for most of them, StrengthsFinders, right from the beginning, you do have to buy into the book or something that will give you access. The 16 personalities one is free. However, I think you can buy more, like with any other, beyond the initial assessment.
Right.
I think one that we've also done in the past is the Kolbe.
Kolbe Index. That Kolbe Index. That was a lot of fun.
I mean, a couple of decades ago, maybe DISC was very popular. And there's like a heavy lift one. I'm thinking Briggs,
Myers-Briggs, which kind of feeds into the 16 personalities. Correct. It's kind of pretty similar. But all these tools you can find resources on. They're readily available. Like for anybody who's listening or watching right now, you can go online and just search these terms, and there are free assessments. If you want to know more, you can pay a little more.
Yes.
And for the ones that we did, we'll make sure that they're tagged so that you'll be able to, or accessible to you, so you'll be able to easily access the ones that we did.
Right.
So once you have all of these things and you're aware of who you are, how do you align what you're reading on paper with yourself when you're reading it? Because I think sometimes, again, my daughter looked at it and was questioning, you know, she didn't question her blueprint. She definitely questioned the 16 personalities. So what do you do if there's a misalignment with what you're reading in that, or if you don't feel that it's accurate? So I know for me, I told her, like, this is a framework. It's not 100%. However, you might want to look, you might not be seeing some of the things that are really of your characteristic and you haven't labeled them yet. Right? So that's one way. And then the other is there's always a margin of error in some of these things. So have you ever come across a misalignment of what your results were, or you've had to do a little bit of extra thinking or assessing of what the results were? Or have you always been bang on?
Personally,
yes,
I've been bang on.
Awesome.
I think there's like a level of self-awareness, and you know, you talk about it with your friends and you talk about it with your colleagues. So how about you?
That was, Leanne, you're great because you're like, oh, it's bang on. Some of the things, gotta be honest, I was like, that's not me. And I think there's a little bit of a maybe, and there's no good or bad in any of these profiling types. And I think what's important to realize, it's a framework. It doesn't mean that that's correct. You are that person. It just means you have a tendency to behave in that way, which is going to impact the way you think about things and when you behave. I think being open to entertaining possibilities that maybe how I'm perceiving myself to behave is not showing up in the same way as what other people perceive me. And I think that's the lesson. And I think, when you say, make sure you have people to give you feedback, because we're not necessarily our own best judge. Like, we should be the best judge of our own character. But we like, well, I'm not like that. Like, I don't do that. And then the close people by my side are like, oh no, you are like that. You just don't see it that way. So the way I've taken feedback or results where I've looked at assessments and said, like, well, I don't feel that way, I wonder why it is. It's more approach it with curiosity, approach it with a questioning, like, okay, if I've answered a bunch of questions as honestly as possible and this is what is coming out of the framework, well, maybe I need to consider that there's something to that truth, right? So I don't know. That's kind of how
that's huge, actually. Because if you don't approach it with curiosity, because there could be a reason why there's a misalignment.
Yeah.
Right. So, there's, what was I reading the other day? It was about, it's in the way of integrity. So in this book, it's how are you showing up and what are your actions? Where are they truly coming from? Is it from true choice, or are you feeling pressure to do something because of socialization? You feel like somebody will be disappointed if you did do something a little bit differently, closer to your heart, that means more to you. So that is also another thing to consider.
How about you, Lisa? How have you either gotten that feedback where it's misaligned or it's always been aligned?
For a long time, I actually didn't want to take any of them.
Really?
I didn't want to be pigeonholed. I think there was actually a couple of clients that approached me probably in the early 2000s that were insistent on it, or I would not have the opportunity to proceed. And I just wouldn't do it because I didn't want to be pigeonholed into being this way. And then that's how you're going to maybe give me my list of responsibilities or how you're going to approach me, as opposed to you just being who you are. I'm going to be who I am. Fast forward 20 years later, that has changed. I really do see the value in the assessments. I see the value in creating teams based on the results of assessments, the compatibility, the harmony, which eventually leads to the results that you're going to get. And I think as leaders of people and of selves, your assessment to see if progression is based on results. And so based on results, I can firmly say that there's a reason why the top companies use these tools, not only for leadership, also for the teams that are under leadership, to create a cohesive or harmonized team to deliver whatever it is. So in terms of my own assessments, I think I'm never surprised anymore, again, because of the evolution of my belief and perception of said assessments. So it has helped me to know who I am, to form partnerships like this and friendships and relationships. They're great conversation pieces for when you're putting together teams, and even with my daughter, I mean, she's done her own and, she's really surprised. So I think, again, leadership is not only of your team in the professional world, it is also of yourself, and you're the same person in your profession as you are in your personal life, fundamentally, my belief anyway. So I struggled with it in the beginning, in short, and now I am, give me as much as you can so I can be firmly aware to create even better results with a wider range of people.
Okay, so to wrap up, the first step in the journey, I think, is really get to know yourself, right? Use these self-assessments, get familiar, get comfortable with talking about your strengths, your weaknesses, what you like, what you don't like. Build your personal board, find some trusted advisors who you can get feedback from. I think did I miss anything?
I think you pretty much
I think we covered a lot.
I think that's a good place to start, right?
We gave everyone a lot of tools. So as you were listening and, finding out about the different tool names, we're going to post all the links in our channel, making sure that everyone has the opportunity to find out more, do their own and conduct their own self-assessment. So next steps, as we mentioned, this is a series. So we'll be offering more other steps in this whole journey of career development and how to progress. Follow along. But for the first one, make sure you go to one of these self-assessment links and just find out a little bit about yourself. And we'll be sure to guide you along the way. You won't be left alone or left hanging. And so, that's just the first step.
before we move on, I think the reason why we want to find out more about who we are is that if you're, and to tie in that whole burnout thing, if you're doing something you don't like, how stressed out are you?
100%.
So I think that's kind of why I want to start with the get to know who you are first, right? And then that'll start revealing whether or not something's wrong, right? What are your values? I think we didn't even mention about values. So knowing your values.
Assessments.
So
I think for sure burnout, and I think usually that's the first trigger for people to recognize like something's awry or amiss because I'm not feeling good or I'm in my role. Another time in my career, at least, that I know that I need to make a change and I didn't realize was I was just feeling kind of bored. Like that's the other thing where people feel like there's a little bit of boredom, or sometimes when there's nothing wrong at all, but you still sense that something's kind of off. And I think, especially in the last couple of years where people were at home a lot, frankly, and not distracted by going into the office and meeting with their colleagues and having a great time, you're just sitting with the work, right? When you're sitting with the work and you're like, this is it, like I'm just waking up, turning on my computer and like, this is where I'm for 8 hours a day. Is that still what you want to do? And I think this is a good time to kind of have that internal dialogue to see if that's still what you want to do.
Got it. Yeah. Got it. Love it.
One more thing, I want to just finalize this values thing. So the value factor with DeMartini, Brene Brown with her, did she do that in Dare to Lead?
Dare to Lead.
Right. So knowing your values, because there could be a misalignment in what you're working on, your environment, some of the things that you're doing aren't aligned with your values.
100%.
So I think know your skills, know your strengths, know what you like, what you don't like, but know your values too, I think is a really good baseline.
100%.
And then your board.
Your trusted board.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for, again, making the call, really catapulting this today. We've had such a great time. Janice, thanks for coming back and doing this together. I really enjoyed it. Just to recap what they've said, really get to know yourself as a whole person, because in the wholeness of yourself, you will know what works and what doesn't work, and then you can inspire others to do the same. And in doing so, you're just going to generate more results and be happier for it, and avoid the burnout, really. I mean, you can go so far, stretch so beyond what you think your limits are, whether it's sleep or, and again, not advisable on a regular basis. However, you can, if you have enough happiness, if you have enough balance, if you have enough passion for what you're doing. And I think these self-assessment tests and the values, all of it together really empower you to do that. Welcome to part of our trusted advisors, and we hope you enjoy it. So thank you again for joining us, Leanne, Janice, myself, Lisa. Thank you for joining our engagement of Fireside Leadership.
Thank you for listening to Fireside Leadership. Until next time.